under what the weight of what you just described. Like there's just no way we can stay together. And so I guess that's my question, CJ and Pete. I mean, like, what was it that allowed you to stay through this entire journey? And then I think a follow-on question is, oftentimes when the person who's getting treated for PTS, they go on that journey alone, they end up moving forward with the healing process, and their spouse is left behind. And it's almost like they get to the other side of it and the spouse is bitter, because it's like, well, wait a second here. I'm unpacking all of this emotion myself, and there's no one that I'm doing this with. You've had that opportunity. That dynamic I think is very real, and we keep hearing that from a spouse's perspective. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on it.
Well, we're both very stubborn. So I think that's a piece of it, is that both of us are not the type of person that is like, well, I'm done, I quit. We're like, no, you quit. No, so, but no, so I think that, we're both fiercely loyal, and we both have really strong personalities in really different ways. But I myself have a bit of a first responder background. I was an EMT for years. And so I knew what was going on. And a big piece of my being able to get through it was knowing why. And so for me, understanding post-traumatic stress, knowing that some of the things that he was going through were because, not as an excuse, as just a reason, and being able to understand it helped me so much. And one thing there's a story I like to tell when I took Pete to the VA. And I took him in, and there was this great triage nurse there. And, Pete was just like, he didn't talk much the whole time. He was just really focused on trying to get through it. And the triage nurse was a former SEAL medic. And he said, Pete, here's the deal, man. This PTS, this is your dragon. When you have post-traumatic stress, you need to think of it like having a dragon. Dragons are fiery, temperamental creatures. And so it's your job to learn how to tame it. It's your job to learn how to feed it. And this is yours forever. So we will give you the tools. We will teach you how to do this, but it's on you. It's your responsibility. This stays with you. And there was something about that for me to just know, okay, this is a real thing. He's going to have this forever, because even though he's in the healthiest place he's ever been, and we're in the healthiest place that we've ever been, you don't just unsee or unremember things that have happened to you. But giving him the tools, I was excited. I was like, this is the worst day ever, but also filled with so much hope. And when he came back from Mighty Oaks, in fact, there's almost no cell reception where he was. And so I didn't have a lot of contact with him, but they post photo updates on Instagram. And so I was waiting every day to see the photos. And the second day he was there, I was swiping through the photos, and I was trying to see where he is. And I swiped right past him, because he looked so different physically. He looked like his face had changed, and he had just let go of everything. And he looked happy, and it just in a way, and like relaxed. And I just hadn't seen that before in this way. It was such a dramatic shift. But when he came home, I was kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop, because we had just gone from him being in a really kind of, bitter place with the police department into a place of, sort of hope with the fire department, and into this place of really just really, really difficult, challenging time. And then he came home filled with purpose and filled with hope, and completely changed. And I was like, kind of just waiting, trying to feel it out, and trying to, learn what to do. But he was so committed to those repetitions and doing all of the work that he just got healthier and healthier. So that's a gift, it's really easy to look at that and be like, oh, fine, well, now you're better. And, this is still hard for me and whatever. But I think we can't do that. We can't let ourselves do that. We have to just be grateful for this gift, and then figure out how to kind of move forward. So I think that there's still times when I will find myself kind of reverting to the way that I used to be when he was stressed. And I have to just kind of mentally check myself and let down my own guards that I've built to kind of contribute to this new life that we have. So in a way, his PTS will always be there. My feelings and, reactions to that over years will probably always be there in a way, but we're aware of it and we understand it. And that's what makes the difference in how we operate from day to day.
I love it. That's so good. And I appreciate you describing that, because I think some feel like there's an end state to it. Like, okay, if we go through these things, we'll finally be able to be completely healed. And the truth is that is not how it works. It is something that we have to continue to contend each day. And that reality is just part of it, and it's so good that you say that. And I appreciate your perspective, because I think that's another piece that oftentimes gets missed in these conversations of, from the spouse's perspective. What did you guys go through? In closing, because we are out of time, but I think the one thing, I'll just leave you with a question for the audience, for those who are listening. If someone right now is dealing with PTS, or their spouse has been in the shoes, CJ, that you've walked in, what would you say to them in the sense of early on and not understanding what you now know? What would you encourage them to do?
I think it's so important to have community. I think that in this day and age, we are so good at distracting ourselves, and we have everything we need to distract ourselves on the phone that we carry everywhere with us. And for both the first responder and the spouse, when things are hard, we tend to just find a good distraction or find a show to binge, or just kind of engage in that type of activity, when what we really need is each other, because that's what carries us through it. And it's way easier, right, to just kind of veer towards the distraction. It's much harder to be intentional and to build community. And that's one thing I appreciate so much about Stronger Families is, yes, we're contributing, we're giving families these resources, but also we're giving them community. And that is you have to have it. You have to have it, because that's why, part of the reason why I was able to get through it, because I had friends that were kind of going through the same thing. Just knowing that somebody gets you, and knowing that somebody sees you and can pray with you, can be with you, can support you, makes all of the difference in the world, because you cannot do this alone. Just like Kenny said earlier, you cannot. And so if you're a spouse that is feeling isolated and it feels hard to talk to your spouse, I would encourage you to find at least one person that is also a spouse in whatever department you're affiliated with, or not. That doesn't have to be the same department. And just spend time together. It doesn't have to be an airing of grievances. It doesn't have to be a complaining fest. In fact, it shouldn't be. But I think it's so important for both the first responders to build community together and go and do things together outside of work, and for the spouses to do the same thing. I really think that the thing that helps the most is outside of having some strong faith, is really having that strong inner circle, having